Hello and welcome to pmclounge.com. Today we are looking into the different types of cost estimates. And as you can see, three different beautiful looking fruits on your screen. That means there are three types of cost estimates that we are going to look into. Now, before we begin, let me remind you, if you would rather read an article about the different types of cost estimates than watch a video, if you are into reading, then first link in the description is going to take you to the related article on this topic on our website pmclounge.com, and you can check that out. Second link is actually even more important because that is a playlist of all the videos that we have done on the cost management knowledge area. This topic, of course, is a part of the cost management knowledge area. All right, with that being clear, that being said, let's get started. Now, there are some questions that you should ponder upon before we introduce this topic. And these questions are, you can try to answer them from your real life perspective as well, your real life project management experience as well. So, how do you provide cost estimates? If somebody was to come to your cabin and ask you, you have a new project that you're working on, what will be the cost of that project? What is your estimate? Are you going to give them a single number, let's say 100,000 US dollars? Or are you going to say, well, it could be somewhere around 90,000 US dollars to maybe 110,000 US dollars? Are you going to give a range or a single number? Now, when you're working on the project, would you like to provide the cost estimate just once, maybe during the beginning of the project, or would you like to revise those estimates as you go further in the project, as you get to know more details about the project? What would you prefer to do? Let's look into the answers to these questions. Now, one thing is that you should definitely note is that the answers to the questions we just talked about largely depend on what industry you're working in, what organization you're working in, and what is the type of project you're working in. But PMBOK Guide definitely has some guidance for you in this matter. So from the perspective of the PMP exam, this video is going to be important because whatever we tell you is what you should be keeping in mind when you answer PMP questions. But from your real life project perspective, follow whatever that your organization says. Now, cost estimates, they are always provided in a range. The question that we asked in the previous slide, right? Do you give a single number or a range? You always give a range. And the other thing is the estimates can be revised. They can be revised as we move further and gather more project details. And you would want to do that, right? As you move further, as you gather more details of the project, you will be in a better position to estimate the cost that it is going to take to deliver the project, right? So there are three types of cost estimates as indicated in the beginning of this video with those three beautiful fruits that we saw. First is rough order of magnitude, second is budget estimate, and third is definitive estimate. What is the range that these estimates operate in and what is these estimates all about? Let's look into that one by one, starting off with a rough order of magnitude. But before we go there, let me remind you pmclounge.com/resources is where we have listed our favorite PMP books. If you are looking to start your preparation, all the resources that you can buy are available on this link. Now let's talk about rough order of magnitude, ROM, which is also known as a ballpark estimate. Now this should be clear, right? That the name itself is a rough order of magnitude. It is also known as ballpark estimate, and this should fairly give you an idea that this is a pretty rough estimate and this is provided at an early stage of the project. So you may not have a lot of details about the project when you provide the rough order of magnitude estimate. The range of this estimate is minus 25% to plus 75%. This is the range you are dealing with when you talk about ROM or the ballpark estimate or the rough order of magnitude estimate. So what this means is if you submit a cost estimate of 100,000 US dollars, what it means is if this is your rough order of magnitude, if this is your ROM, the actual project cost could be anywhere between 75,000 US dollars to 175,000 US dollars. minus 25% to plus 75%. So this is taken. And again, this is something that you are submitting at the very beginning of the project, and thus this long range is allowed in the rough order of magnitude. It is a ballpark estimate. So the next is budget estimate, and this is where you have better knowledge of the project. Some time have passed since you submitted your ROM, the rough order of magnitude estimate. Some time have passed. You have done some project activities. Now you understand the project better, and you can submit one more estimate, which is known as budget estimate. And the range that you have for this is minus 10% to plus 25%. Let's look at the same example. So if you submit 100,000 US dollars cost estimate as your budget estimate, this is your budget estimate, then it is understood that the actual project cost could be somewhere around 90,000 to 125,000 US dollars, because that is the range of a budget estimate. Moving on, the final estimate that you can submit as part of your project is definitive estimate. And standing true to its name, this is where estimates get most accurate. Now you have gone even further. Some more project activities have taken place, have completed, and you have the best knowledge about the project that you have ever had since the beginning of the project. So today you have the most amount of project knowledge since the beginning of the project, and this is the point where you can submit a definitive estimate, and the range is minus 10% to plus 10%, a minus here which actually is showing up here. So a minus 10 to plus 10% estimate is what you can submit as your definitive estimate. Continuing our same example, so if 100,000 US dollars is your definitive estimate, that means the actual project cost should be around 90,000 to 110,000 US dollars. This is expected out of you, considering you are an experienced project manager and you have submitted a definitive estimate of 100,000 US dollars. So it is expected that you are going to finish off the project in plus minus 10% range, right? Now, I'd like to repeat here, these ranges that we talked about, these estimates that we talk about can differ in terms of the company that you work for, the organization that you work for, in terms of the industry that you're in, and in terms of the project type as well. So all of this can change based on the variables that I just talked about. So a lot of people have this question. That is why I thought about taking this up. Are these ranges fixed? And like I just mentioned, these ranges are not fixed. These ranges are definitely not fixed. And based on your industry, your project type, your organization, these ranges can definitely change. So it is quite possible that in your organization, instead of the plus minus 10% range that you have for definitive estimate, you get a plus minus 5% range, right? It is also possible that you don't get to provide the estimates thrice, but twice, or maybe even once. That is also possible. So everything that we have just read is from the perspective of PMP exam. Those ranges, those names, you should learn for your PMP exam. But in on your real life projects, you should follow whatever your organizational guidelines are. Like I said, it is very possible that in your industry you provide estimates only once, and the range could be plus minus 15%. That is also possible. All things are possible. So like I said, whatever we just discussed is based on the best practices proposed by the PMBOK. It is possible that your project, your organization, and your industry follows something very, very different. When are these estimates provided? That is a really, really good question, and that is why I thought about covering it. Let's take an example of a good old software delivery project. You are the project manager on a software project. So this is where you're going to provide the estimates. When the business case is being made, right? When you are maybe you're developing the project charter. that is where you're going to submit a rough order of magnitude estimate. That is where you submit ROM, when you have the least knowledge about the project because you are just getting started. That's where you submit a very rough figure which has a range of -25% to +75%. That's where you submit the ROM. When you have written those requirements down and you are down to system requirements, the SR document, some people call it the SRS document, when you are in that stage of the project where your system requirements document is finished, it is baselined, it is approved, that is when you can provide the budget estimate, right? Which has lesser range. Now, when you finish off with your design, the high level design, the low level design, when the design is approved, when you have the best possible knowledge that you can have for the project, is where you submit the definitive estimate. And this is where a decision gate can be made. Since you have submitted your best estimate possible, the estimate with the most knowledge of the project, and only design is done yet, this is where the sponsor of the project, the customer, can take a call, can take a decision whether to proceed with the project to complete the development, testing, deployment, or to cancel the project here, right here at the design phase itself. So this again is a very generic representation on where, in what stage of the project life cycle are these estimates submitted. It is possible that for your project, they may ask for you to submit a definitive estimate right at the system requirement stage as well. Like I said, this is very generic, but this should give you an idea of why we have three different types of cost estimate and where is the project manager required to submit these estimates. That's all that we had in this video. Hope you found it useful. If you did, do hit the like button and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon if you have not done so already. Don't forget to check out the website pmclounge.com, your number one free PMP resource, and also follow us on our social media, facebook.com/pmclounge and twitter.com/pmclounge for the latest updates. Thank you.